So now something new for 2012. It's Retro Rallycross.
Well, it's going very well so far. We're pleased with the entry that we have today. We have more cars on board for the Lydden Hill event in August. We have a couple of Audi Quattros coming over from Belgium, and the Group B interest is actually getting quite good. So, yeah, I'm very pleased at the moment.
Fans of a, should we say, certain age like to see these cars, don't they?
Yes, absolutely. I'm of that age also, and I can remember them all first time around, as can many people. And the idea has been in the making for a couple of years now, and yeah, it's great.
So a lovely mixture of classic cars built between 1982 and 1987, depending on the spec of the car. This is Rob Gibson, Shirley's other half, who's rallycrossed this car back in the day when it was current, an ex-Malcolm Wilson car that was used in rallying in its heyday. Ian Biaggi, meanwhile, the ex-BTRDA up to 1600 champion, enjoying himself, as is Lance Foster in this very spectacular Escort. Remember seeing a similar car driven to victory by John Welsh in the British Rallycross Grand Prix back in the day. So for 43-year-old Irish domiciled Pole, Gregor Kalin, he had the Integrale, which of course we recognise from so much success in the World Rally Championship. Gibson, meanwhile, really enjoying throwing this wonderful 6R4 around. Has a totally unique sound, designed, of course, back in the day with the help of the Williams Formula One team. But it was heat wins for Rob Gibson and for Lance Foster, and this gave us this wonderful grid. Takes me back to my youth seeing these cars racing the British Rallycross Grand Prix. The Escort it is that gets away just ahead of Ian Biaggi in his very distinctive Mini Clubman, and then Gibson and Kalin a little bit further back with their slight performance advantage, as you perhaps would expect with cars of that kind of denomination. In fact, for Rob Gibson, the 63-year-old, the reg number of this was really significant for this car when it was back in its day. As you see, Kalin just going through and starting to edge away. Owned this car for some 19 years, says Gregor. And raced it in the Polish Cup, was even in the ERC briefly with it. Meanwhile, Ian Biaggi driving a car that was built by Dave Pritchard back in the day. And as we heard from Shirley Gibson earlier, there's a wonderful mixture of cars that we expect to see joining in the series. We expect to see Barry Stewart in his ex-Rolf Nilsson 911 Turbo, James Harold in a VW Beetle Turbo, which his late Uncle Peter raced. That should be an interesting one. Likewise, one that I'm really looking forward to see is Mark Thomas, his Anglia, his 105E, which is within the regs. You can build a car which is built to the spirit of the day rather than actually necessarily having to be original, and that's exactly what the man from Lancing, Mark Thomas, has done, and we will see him in action very soon. Meanwhile though, Gibson, Kalin and the rest of the drivers thoroughly enjoying themselves on this wonderful sunny afternoon, and as you can see, the spectacular level of commitment being shown by all of the drivers means that Ian Biaggi perhaps winning the most spectacular driver of the day so far in terms of the Retro Historic Rallycross series. Gibson similarly really enjoying his rallycross. He took this car after rallycrossing a Porsche previously, took on this car in the late 80s, was looking at possibly taking on board a Ford, but then decided that the 6R4 was more his style and took that on. Now very much enjoying the fact that this series gives him and some of the other guys a chance to showcase this wonderful machinery. And as Shirley said earlier, cars that we expect to see include things like some Quattros coming over from the Dutch and the Belgian drivers. Expect to see those with us very, very soon. Mark Faneca, a regular rallycross driver in the 80s and the 90s. Used to have a long wheelbase Quattro, and his son-in-law Cedric van der Bury, expect to see him on board too. And it's the marshals, you can see them diving away from the cloud of dust that's being thrown up by the Escort. They're enjoying watching these cars in action. You can see that although they are clearly very, very much classic cars, so certainly being driven with no less commitment and enthusiasm than some of the current cars. Of course, with the flexibility in the regulations in Rallycross. It's been possible to take cars like the Integrale and the 6R4 and rallycross them in some relatively current stuff. They've been out racing in fairly recent times. But also, other drivers expect to see is Roy Edwards in his venerable classic Escort. The man from Tunbridge Wells, the ton hire boss, we expect to see him as part of the fun very, very soon. But it was, for the very first time out, Ray Morgan who takes the checkered flag. Gregor's Kalin Ecchi comes across the line in spectacular fashion ahead of Ian Biaggi and then Rob Gibson. And for a first event, it provided some tremendous racing and some wonderful cars to look at. But it was the Ford Escort BDA of Ray Morgan who wins by 2.31 seconds ahead of Gregor's Kalin Ecchi, then Ian Biaggi, and finally Rob Gibson in his MG Metro 6R4. So after the break, we'll be back with the action from this.
Well, we've seen some great action already here at Lydden Hill, but now it's time for something completely different. 2012 sees the birth of this Retro Rallycross. Classic motors from the 80s, getting it out there on the track to show that these motors have still got what it takes. Let's join Simon to see some of the action.
So it's Ian Biaggi sitting at the front of the grid in his marvellous BMC Mini Clubman. The championship new for this year, already proving to be very popular with spectators and drivers alike. Having lost James Harrold in his VW Beetle because of difficulties, the grid was reduced to 5 cars. And because of the power difference of the 6R4 in the hands of Rob Gibson and the Lancia Integrale piloted by Gregor's Kalin Ecchi, they were held back and given a 5-second delayed start. And when they were released, Rob Gibson went chasing after the pack. The Integrale, though, pulled very sluggishly off the line, and Kalin Ecchi seemed to be having problems. Up ahead, newcomer for this round, Barry Stewart, really showed that the Porsche 911 was a fantastic rallycross car, now fitted with twin superchargers. It was proving itself to be very quick. Up at the front, the race was being led by Ray Morgan in the Ford Escort BD8, an absolutely stunning machine, one of the last rear-wheel drive rallycross cars produced before the four-wheel drive Escorts came out. While Ray was busy enjoying himself and setting faster and faster laps, he was being chased by the Porsche 911. And just as that Porsche got close enough to have a go at challenging for the lead, disaster struck. Barry Stewart spun his car, throwing away not only second but also third as the charging 6R4 came flying around the corner and easily moved up and away. At the front though, Ray Morgan in his Escort was unstoppable, flying across the line to take victory, his second since the series started last time out at Mallory Park. Second went the way of Rob Gibson in the Metro 6R4. Barry Stewart recovered the spinning Porsche 911 to take third, while the Mini Clubman with Ian Biaggi at the wheel came home in fourth position. So the final of the Retro Rallycross, we've seen these cars join the party for 2012 and providing a very welcome and popular addition to British Rallycross. On the right it was Kalin Ecchi, but a bit of contact between Foster in the green and white Mini and Rob Gibson charging through in his Metro 6R4. We've seen that car be so strong in European Rallycross in the past. Will Gollop amongst others being a man to pilot that car to success. Matti Alamaki, of course, on board the Lancia in the past, but at the moment it is Gregor's Kalin Ecchi, the man who's domiciled in Ireland, the 43-year-old coming over and really giving a fantastic performance as he has done. Had some technical problems last time out. It was the car of Ray Morgan that was the strongest last time we saw them in action. It's wonderful to see this mixture of different chassis, different generations of cars. Some of them have been converted from different specs to what we see here. But the fight between Gibson and Kalin Ecchi is looking very, very likely to go all the way to the flag. Meanwhile, at the back we've seen some interesting additions. The 100 car of Mark Griffin in the fabulous little Fiesta. Haynes of Maidstone, well, Trevor Hopkins amongst others. You see rallycrossing cars like that. A bit of contact once again. And it looks like Foster's got himself to the front of the pack. Let's have another look once again. Morgan charges down the inside. Now, I'm not sure if that was contact there or whether that was just Kalin Ecchi getting on the handbrake and sliding the car sideways. Either way, he got two sideways, whether it was his own fault or somebody else's. Couldn't quite tell from that camera angle. Meanwhile, Morgan and Foster getting closer and closer to very different types of car. Kalin Ecchi taking the scenic route on the exit of the tight right-hander. Look how the front of that car pours the air. Reminds me of the days of seeing Keith Ripp in minis back in the 70s and the 80s, and of course John Welsh winning the British Rallycross Grand Prix in a Sealy-sponsored car back in the 80s in a Ford Escort that looked not too dissimilar to that one. So lots of wonderful memories being created, but some new ones here, of course, for Kalin and the rest of the pack as they scrap hard. Gibson dropping back a little bit further at this stage. Kalin looking like he's got enough in it to be able to just edge away that fight in the middle though between Foster and between Morgan, getting very, very frantic. Can't believe that two cars that look so different can fight so closely. Testament to the driving ability on display, and of course the fact that there's different ways of creating a fast rallycross car. Isn't this an evocative sight, that wonderful Integrale? Going back to the heyday of it as a World Rally car, of course, Mickey Biasion making a couple of World Rally Championships in an Integrale. Juha Kankkunen, another top-line driver in the history of the sport to have rallied those cars. And as the checker flag comes down, it is Kalin who managed to get the car across the line first ahead of Morgan and Lance Foster. A tremendous scrap to the end. So here is confirmation of those results. It was Kalin by 2.48 seconds ahead of Morgan. Lance Foster in third. Then Mark Griffin in his Fiesta ahead of Biaggi. And then finally Rob Gibson not finishing in his Metro.
Congratulations, a great race there for you.
Yeah, this was great race, especially we have the problem last race. So all lads work good on the workshop, so we prepare car and right now it's results.
The little Mini behind you there was pushing all the way?
Yeah, it was, this Mini is really fast and I think his Ford is well Escort. So I need to keep eyes on the guys and, you know, keep tight that track. So I drive for keep the lead all the race.
Retro Rallycross is next up here at Croft for cars 1982 to 1987 inclusive. And on the pole position is Gregor Kalin with his Lancia Delta Integrale. Next up, we've got the Astra GTE of Gary Dixon. And then on the outside of the front row, the little Rover Mini of Lance Foster. Talk about David and Goliath. As the fans look in, that's a great grid. That is absolutely fantastic. Shades of the past, thumbs up by the marshal at the front, and thumbs up from the fans as they prepare to go back in time with Retro Rallycross. It's a 4-lapper here at Croft. Now then, keep an eye on that Integrale. Will he be able to out-accelerate the rear-wheel drive Astra GTE of Gary Dixon? He's not in the Super Nationals here for this one-off Grand Prix, as he so normally is for the British Championship. We're underway and a brilliant start, as to be expected, by Rob Gibson in his Metro 6R4. Listen to the V6 howl its way down to the first corner. So the Group B car that made its debut in the middle of the 80s is now under big pressure from the Integrale of Kalin as we're riding with Gary Dixon. The action is happening at the front and it looks like Kalin has got through. He has indeed. Now Rob Gibson has got all the work to do with that Metro 6R4 as he puts the hammer down. He's got a windscreen full of Integrale. Rob, with his wife Shirley, they've put together this fantastic Retro Rallycross series, and it's certainly pulling the fans in. We love to see Metro 6R4. Somebody's smoking. That doesn't look good. Now then, the Integrale stays ahead. Gibson with the twitchy short wheelbase. The little Mini. Brilliant drive there by Lance Foster in that third position. Now let's go back to the start. Gary Dixon on the front row in second place. Now he's got a rear wheel drive Vauxhall Astra GTE. Oh, and he bogs it. Oh, and that's, goodness me, there's the 6R4 of Gibson rushing through. That gives you a brilliant indication of what the Group B cars were like. But now with even more modern technology put on board with them. Gibson, absolutely stunning as he left the line, but can he get round Kalin Ecchi's Integrale? He's trying to go around the outside. Surely there's not the grip there. Surely the rains recently have made that grass just a little bit too muddy, and it was a last gasp effort, and who can blame Rob Gibson? He had a go. Winning, though, was Kalin Ecchi. Gibson does bag second position, Foster third, Gary Dixon coming across the line in fourth place, as we see Ray Morgan with his Escort BDA. Shades of Martin Shanker coming over the line ahead of Barry Stewart with the Porsche 911. Brilliant entertainment as Kalin Ecchi lets everybody back into the paddock after the donuts. Round of applause for all of the finishers here at Croft. Let's have a look at the results. And it's confirmed that Kalin Ecchi is victorious with the Delta Integrale ahead of a 6R4 of Gibson, ahead of the little Rover Mini of Lance Foster. An Astra GTE, a BDA Escort and a 911 in there too.